Hey everyone, welcome to Mission Ready VA Disability Podcast. I know what everybody's thinking. Where's Dr. Bahr? We are tuning in for that pretty face and that beautiful doctor's voice. But you're stuck with me today because we are going to be talking about submitting claims, intent to file, submitting your Nexus DBQs, and the pitfalls of submitting your claim. I'm Josh Ackler. I am the director of the Veterans Outreach here at Xterra Health, and most of my days is spent on the phone talking to veterans every day, and I walk everybody through the process of how to submit online, and explain the process to them and show them how to submit on their own. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to do an intent to file. So no matter what you do, always submit an intent to file. So that gives you time to gather evidence, get your diagnosis, get your medical records, private records from the VA records, anything like that, even your service records, because sometimes that could take a long, very time. When we're submitting our intent to file, the first thing you want to do is you're either going to go on the va.gov website, and it takes 5 minutes. You could fill out the form online. Or you can call the VA hotline number and talk to one of the representatives themselves, and they will submit the form for you. This saves your date. So whatever day that you put that in, that starts the date. Even if you do it on, say, the end of the month, the 30th of the month, it makes that month the first, the actual start date. So even if you did it on the October 30th, the actual effective date would be October 1st. Right from the beginning, you're going to need to have a current diagnosis. That's the first thing that the VA asks for, is a current diagnosis. Also, what they're going to ask for is if you have an in-service injury, illness, if that's documented, they're going to want that. Sometimes it doesn't apply because sometimes PTSD, things like that, they get diagnosed after service. But they will go back off of your military records and see if you went through combat, or if you maybe filed like a military sexual trauma, if there's any like formal filings, things like that. And so they'll back up off of that, and that will count as a in-service event. The next thing's going to be is a nexus. So that's what links the two together. So when we're talking about Nexus letters, that's where we come in, where we write the Nexus letters and a disability benefits questionnaire. Now, to explain what a Nexus letter and a DBQ is, the Nexus letter is the letter that explains how that injury or illness links to your military service. So that would be explaining how sleep apnea, for example, secondary condition to PTSD. Now, 99% of the time, and just in my experience being a VSO and through working through Xterra, is if you do sleep apnea direct, it's going to immediately be denied because they can't find a nexus between the two, and you're going to have to file it as a secondary condition. So with that, also is the DBQ, the Disability Benefits Questionnaire. Now, you can get a DBQ along with a Nexus letter, or you can get a DBQ if you're already service-connected. And so what the DBQ does, it shows the severity of how the functional and daily impact that it has on you. And it kind of shows like a chronological of how your symptoms have worsened over time. If you're already service connected, together they create the evidence to show severity and the cause of your event or illness or injury, etc., like that. Now we're going to get into how to actually file your claim. So I'm going to break down between filing a supplemental claim, filing a new claim, and I'm going to teach how to do everything as best as possible to try to help you out as best as we can. First thing it's going to be is that you're going to go on to va.gov. Now, when you're going in there, you're going to go onto the website, and through that, you're going to file a claim. Now, there's a new claim for conditions that you're not service connected for, or you're trying to file an increase. So those are going to be the forms. That's going to be the form you're going to use. Now, this form number is called a new file 21526EZ. This will be for your new claim and increases. Now, on that 21526EZ, you're going to fill out everything that you possibly can on there, as detailed as possible. Now, when you're trying to list your condition that you're trying to service connect, don't try to keep it simple. Say like back injury. Well, tell how the injury happened, when it happened, where it happened. So let's say in sense that you fell off the back of a 7-ton in Ramadi in 2003. That's what you're going to put on your claim, is that back injury due to falling off of a 7-ton truck, and it was in 2003 in Ramadi, Iraq. That's going to be a trigger for them to look at your service records immediately. Now, when you're doing it, don't put diagnosis, because sometimes the diagnosis doesn't match actually what the claim is. So if you say that you're trying to claim headaches and actually they say that you have migraines, your claim becomes denied because you put a specific diagnosis. So try to keep it to at least like headaches to include migraines, or back pain due to an injury, knee pain due to an injury. Now, we'll go on to the next one. So this would be, in the most cases, this is for everybody that we deal with here at Xterra Health, is usually somebody with a denial. Now, with a denial, you're going to have to do that on a separate form, and that is the supplemental claim. Now, and that number is a 200995. This form has to be word for word, or it will get denied. When you have your denial letter, you have to say exactly what the denial letter says, word for word. Because if you don't do this, it's going to get taken away and say that it's going to be denied. There's not enough evidence. So with that is there's going to be another section so when you're looking at the online, it's going to be section 1, claim condition, and then a date of denial. The date of the denial has to be the most recent date of denial. Now, if you got denied 20 years ago, then you're going to have to put 20 years ago. But if you got denied 2 months ago, even though you've done this 3 times, 3 separate ways, however, or three ways the same way, must be the most recent denial. If that date is not correct and it does not line up with the denial claim, then they will shoot this down. Now, there's another section that goes on here. Now, this section comes up a lot when I'm on the phone. This section is where it says treating providers to show new and relevant evidence. Now, yes, a Nexus letter and a DBQ, or a Nexus letter alone, or a DBQ alone, whatever you get from us or from whatever you get from any other provider, you're going to not use them as a treating provider, because a medical opinion is not a treating provider unless that provider who writes that Nexus letter is your treating provider. So that means that you regularly go to visits, get blood pressure, you go and get physicals from this doctor's, immunizations, anything along that line that shows that you are chronically seeing that provider. That's the only time you will ever put your Nexus letter provider on that treatment, on the treating provider line. Please, please, please do not put the Nexus letter provider, a third party Nexus letter provider, in that line, or it will hold up your claim quite a bit. Now, the next step is going to be, after you've filled out your forms, is that you're going to be uploading your new and relevant evidence, or the evidence, depending on which route you take. Are you doing a new claim, the 21526, or are you doing a supplemental claim, the 200995? So you're going to have to submit a Nexus letter. So when you submit the Nexus letter on there, there's a drop-down menu. In that drop-down menu, there is not a tab that says Nexus letter. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to upload that as a non-government treatment facility private provider That's the only option that you can really use. And that helps, and so that way it does not confuse that rater. Now, when you're submitting a DBQ, there is a drop-down menu for a DBQ. There is a drop-down menu for buddy statements, lay statements from a spouse, your own personal statement. It's very good to use a personal statement, especially when you're doing a supplemental claim, because you want to point out that you have a new relevant evidence showing the diagnosis of whatever that your claim condition is. And what you're going to say is that you have a Nexus, you have a DBQ to show that there is a relationship between the two. You're also going to be showing like medical records if it's new, just to keep them updated. So kind of like you're making basically what you're trying to do is make an outline for yourself for that rater to understand what's in your head, because they're not mind readers, and they have a stack of multiple submissions, and they're just trying to read through and just kind of go through, and they try to make their own opinion. But if you're trying to hold their hand, then you already set the tone for your claim. Now, when you're uploading your Nexus letters and your DBQs, you want to label them in a PDF file. The VA only accepts PDF files. Now, when you're labeling your PDF files, be clear what that PDF file is. So if it's a Nexus letter from Dr. Bahr for your sleep apnea, you're going to state Dr. Bahr, Nexus letter, sleep apnea, and the date. Now, always make sure, we make sure that we put your social security on there, or at least your last four on the letter. Always make sure somewhere on your file there is a last four, your social or a full social, because Michael Smith is a common name. And they're going to say, okay, is this your letter, or is this something that you copied and pasted? That's usually kind of sometimes what happens is they're like, okay, well, is this really Michael Smith's, or is this just run-of-the-mill Michael Smith? Always have your last four on there. And then what you're going to do is then you're going to submit, and then you're going to get a confirmation email that says that you submitted. Now, you can always track your claim on My Claim Tracker. Now, this one kind of gets a little bit crazy. It will drive you nuts because you're going to constantly seeing in step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. There's 7 steps. The longest step you're going to see is step 3. Step 3 is evidence gathering. You may be on this for months. Don't go buy that claims tool tracker, because it's just going to drive you insane. Wait for you're going to get updates. Anytime that it moves a step, you will get an update in your email, or otherwise you're just going to be refreshing that page every day, driving yourself nuts to see what's going on with your claim. Make sure that you don't send any duplicates, because if you send duplicates, they're not going to know which one's which, and they're going to say you're sending duplicate, and it could possibly be sent back as an error. The other thing's going to be is make sure that you're clear on what it is that you want. So you can use that personal statement. Be clear what you're trying to get service connected. Be clear what your the Nexus letter states on your personal statements. You always want to be descriptive. You want to put as much information in there. Like I said in the earlier, you want to hold their hand. So you utilize that personal statement to walk them step by step by step. You can outline everything that you're trying to do all in that letter on a personal statement, which is actually, I didn't get to say before, that file number is a 214138. Also, one of the most common things that happens is I'm trying to wait for my medical records. I don't have my records yet. File. But what you're going to state is on that personal statement that you're awaiting your records. This just gets your process going. You're going to be in that evidence gathering stage for multiple months. In that time, you can get your medical records, and then you can submit them and put them as a statement and saying that I am submitting my medical records at this time for your evidence review. Now that you submitted everything, the usual process is going to be the initial claim review, then it's going to go to evidence gathering, then it's going to go to just rating and decision. Now, in between this, what's going to happen most likely is they're going to be scheduled a CAP exam. Now, you can bring your Nexus letter and DBQ, if you get one, to the CAP examiner so that they can review it. But I'm going to say, if they schedule you a CAP exam, you must attend. If you do not, you will be labeled as a person that failed to go to exam, and they will deny the claim. Now, sometimes if you get a DBQ, this does happen, is if you get a DBQ from a private provider like ourselves, you'll actually just go right into the review, and they might not send you to a CAP exam. But if you get a letter from LHI, QTC, OptumServe, those are the CAP examiners that the VA is contracted with. You must attend, and I'm going to preach this till the day I die. Attend that CAP exam, because that is your evidence. That's the VA trying to examine and try to figure out if this is service connectable or not. Now, that's where you bring in the Nexus letter and DBQ, because that doctor that you're going to see, or PA or NP, it depends on what the VA wants to send you to, they can review that and agree with it. And they can say, oh, I reviewed this record and I do concur with Dr. Bahr's Nexus letter stating that sleep apnea is secondary to his PTSD. You may get denied on your first initial exam. Don't let this be your vice. Don't give up. There's always that supplemental claim, that 200995. You're just going to need to have to get new and relevant evidence. Don't ever let one denial stop you from what you deserve to get. You're just going to have to show them what it is that you're trying to connect and how is it connectable. That could be that you just need to get the diagnosis. That could be that you need a Nexus letter, the DBQ. These are all new and relevant evidence, and that will help you move along with trying to get that service connection. Everything that you submit to the VA, that goes into your VA file. It's your story. It's your story in service. Now, if you need some professional help, like a Nexus letter, a DBQ, that's where you can come to us. You can come to xterrahealth.com. You can reach us on Facebook. You can get us on TikTok, Instagram, and we can get you scheduled and have one of our providers write you a letter to the VA standard. And that's what we do. That's our mission. We want to make sure no veteran is left behind due to medical documentation. And if this resonates with you, or if it resonates with another veteran that you know about, please let them see this video, hoping that this will help guide them and get that claim right the first time. Until then, stay informed, stay squared away, and as always, stay mission ready.